What is up, dudes? It is Drew and Brandon back here with the Banter at the Bank podcast. How are y'all doing? How you doing, Brandon?
Oh, I'm doing good, Drew. I'm doing good. I mean, not gonna let poor performance dampen my mood, you know.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's been a little hit and miss here recently, more miss than hit, but um we'll get into that. So today we got going on we have a listener question that will hit off the start. And then we will cover um, the games from this past week, the Braves and Red series. We'll give you some roster updates, get into Phillies by the numbers with the number 3. Um, we got a special news segment in there somewhere. Um, and we'll talk about the upcoming games and briefly touch on Mick Abel as we get to the end there. So, getting right into it, listener question is from my buddy Bobby. He says, "How did you feel about the Phillies playing Kirkering in the playoffs last year in the NLCS, knowing he was struggling?" That's part one. Part
Yeah.
two. Part two. I guess I'll just read both because it's probably easier. Same with Kimbrel, since they had other options that they could go to. So how do you feel? I'll let you go first, and then I'll get my thoughts all gathered there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing that led to that was Sir Anthony Dominguez not being himself at all last year, not being his 2022 self at all last year, because in 22 it was basically the Alvarado and Sir Anthony show, and Sir Anthony was pretty much put in all those situations against righties, or whatever their matchups told Thompson. Whenever the righty was needed, Anthony would go in and dominate. So without having him in domination form last year, and they didn't really trust him, they really did not have as the bullpen was thinner than what it looked like on paper because Anthony wasn't as dominant as he was the year before. So I mean, like I was fine with it. I was cool with it. I mean, because Hoffman obviously was great, but I feel like they didn't even trust him after the game two against the Braves and the DS 100%. So it was like, hey, our young stud and our guy who has 400 career saves, you just got to lean on them. They got us there, and obviously, in hindsight, it kind of backfired. But I mean, in the moment, I didn't think either was a horrible move. I think Kimbrel coming in when he gave up that home run against Alec Thomas. I forget what inning. I think it was what the seventh or eighth. I think that was not as great of a move. I think that because he was starting to get hit around even since the DS with the Braves. So I think maybe going Hoffman there would have been a better move. But um, yeah, Drew, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I largely agree. Kirkering was doing pretty well up to that point. He was, he wasn't quite as lights out as he was in the minors, but that's expected when you come up to the majors and people are sitting on your slider at that point because they're not just wildly swinging like minor league players will. So it was a bit of a large curve there for him at the end. Um, but besides Kirkering, your other option is Kimbrel, which is the other guy we were about to talk about. Um, and Kimbrel was just really streaky during the regular season, and he kind of just got off of a hot streak and started on a cold streak at the wrong time in the playoffs. So I think that's a lot of what happened. But your other options really would have been throw Lorenzen, which he was thrown a few times out of the bullpen in the playoffs, and he didn't do terrible. He could have gone to Marte, but he wasn't really doing much better in the playoffs, and he might not even been on the playoff roster. I have no idea. You could have gone to Dylan Covey, but same deal. So Brogdon started the year off here and then got sent down and never came back up. So it's like all your guys from 22 that were doing so well, like you said, Dominguez, Brogdon, Bellotti was and then I'm just quickly looking at a whole bunch of other people. But you got those three main guys there with between Brogdon and Dominguez, who were your main righty relief pitchers 2 years ago. They couldn't do anything close to what they did in 22 last year in 23. So you're kind of just stuck with going with Kimbrel and Kirkering, which aren't bad options, but they just kind of imploded at the very, very wrong time.
Yeah, and I looked it up. So in game 4, I mean, also too, Chris Sanchez at that time was only going like 3 innings, 2 in it. Like
I didn't
they weren't letting
understand
him
that.
go deep
He
into
was
games.
dealing in that game too, and I don't understand pulling him. Like I know you're trying to win it then, or not win it then. You're trying to win that game and do whatever you could, so you essentially didn't have to go back to Philly. Um,
Hmm.
and you're trying to stop the bleed, but like Sanchez was dealing, and so I still don't
Hmm.
understand taking him out when they did. I like in the moment I'm like, oh yeah, Topper, trust Topper, he's got this. But looking back, I'm like, what the heck are you doing? Like
Yeah, and
Sanchez
that's
might have only pitched 2 more innings, but still, that's 2 innings that Kimbrel might not have had to pitch. Who knows?
hmm and they went Sanchez to Hoffman, Strom, Sir Anthony's, Gregory Soto, then Kirkering, Kimbrel, Alvarado. So
It's one
yeah,
of
I
those
mean,
things where they started using the bullpen backwards a
hmm
few times, where you're using some of your best guys early on in critical situations, so the game stays closer and um, your team has a chance to blow it open. But it kind of backfired because they kept it close, so your bats still had a chance to absolutely blow it open, but the bats never blew it open. So now you're kind of like, shoot, we have to go to Kirkering and Kimbrel, who are good relievers, but they weren't at that point, like at that instantaneous point in time.
hmm
They weren't doing so well, so now you're kind of stuck going with them when you would have liked to have gone with Hoffman at that point, but you already
hmm
used Hoffman.
yeah,
So yeah, it's a interesting time.
yeah. But yeah, good question. Appreciate the
Yep.
question.
Keep them coming.
Yeah, absolutely. Love, you know, thinking of different perspectives and hearing what people think. So,
Yep.
questions are always great.
Yes.
So, Drew, such an exciting opening weekend opening weekend against the Braves.
It's one way to put it.
Um, I mean, yeah, just gearing up for all that excitement and then 2 pretty brutal losses.
Two
So,
stinkers. Let's be honest. Two
yeah.
stinkers. Two absolute stinkers.
Yeah.
So Friday's game I was watching. Saturday's game, how much did I watch? We were winning when I stopped watching. I had family Easter on Saturday. So I missed a good part of that game. But when I stopped watching, we were winning.
Mhm.
3-2, maybe.
Mhm.
And then I saw that Nola came out and just went. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah,
So Saturday, we'll we'll start
we'll
with
go in
Friday.
order.
So
Go in
yeah,
order.
so Friday, obviously Strider versus Wheeler, which we were really excited about. Wheeler, honestly, well,
Wheeler
not
pitched
honest,
really well.
yeah, Wheeler definitely outdueled Strider in this one.
Definitely, 100%.
Um, yeah, had a really nice outing. Um,
Then it was really the
well,
bullpen.
yeah,
Yeah, bullpen imploded.
yeah, yeah. So 6 innings pitched, 5 hits, 5 strikeouts. Just a clean, no earned runs. So
Yep.
just clean, good outing from Wheeler. I mean, people were complaining, oh, should have went out to 7. He was cruising. It's like, hey,
Hmm.
we have a whole season ahead of us. I mean, as
Don't hurt
Cole
him now.
is
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I'm super happy with Wheeler going 6 innings for,
Hmm.
or 7 innings and just ramping up that way, which is kind of what they've done the last few years. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, Strom and Alvarado just kind of blowing that game up, which I'm not worried about. I mean, they're both proven stud pitchers in our bullpen.
Yep.
So it's just kind of one of those early year games, in my opinion.
Yeah, and they both had plenty of time over the next couple of games to come out and show that it was just a fluke.
Yeah.
So that was positive. But Marte
Hmm.
kind of carried over what he was doing in the spring into that
Hmm.
first game there, as he came in and pitched the last inning and struck out a guy, gave up 1 hit, but didn't give up any runs or a walk. So that's encouraging. If he can turn into something, that would be
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, Marte's
But
been solid this year so far. I've enjoyed watching him pitch.
but in my opinion, the real downfall to that first game was the fact that the top 4 guys in our lineup didn't get a single hit.
Mm-hmm.
So I really think that's the big issue there, is that
Yeah.
1 through 4 went 0 for, I'm doing quick math here, 0 for 12. Nope, 0 for 14. So that can't happen.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, got the win Sunday. Monday, a horrible horrible loss against the Reds.
Yep.
But then Tuesday, that was it.
That was a good time.
That was quite the game. Drew was fortunate enough to be down there.
That I was.
Would love to hear, how the experience was seeing an absolute classic Harper. I think it was the first time since 2015 he's had 3 home runs in a single game, and that
Yeah.
was obviously his MVP season with the Nats. So,
Mm-hmm. You
yeah,
know
I
what he
mean,
didn't do in that one though? He didn't hit a grand slam. So
yeah, there we go, there we
got one up
go.
here. Yeah. No,
Yeah, he
he
went from 0 for 11 to having what 7 RBIs? No, 6
6.
RBIs,
Yeah,
and
and
3
3 home
bombs.
runs. Hey, he's on pace for, well, I need to adjust it now. After that game, he was on pace for like 97 home runs. So
Yes.
just got to keep it up.
Yeah.
Setting all the
But
records this year. But no, that game was absolutely electric. Um, Turnbull came in right out the gate, and he was on. There's a little scare there at the beginning of the game, which I missed because we were a little late getting to the game, where Stubby got hit in a delicate area.
mhm.
And
That was like right out the gate. Like
I know
it's
it's like
like
the second pitch or something
here's
like
your
that.
first start of the year, Stubbsy. Bang.
Yeah, I know. Bang bang. So, um, poor
Maybe
dude.
that's. uh,
But yeah, but he got back up after a little bit, and he was out there the rest of the game, so that was a good sign. But now Turnbull came in 5 strong, gave up no runs, didn't walk a guy, struck out 7. If he can do that, as I was saying in that recap video I posted, having a 5th starter who could come out and not give up 4 runs in the first inning and then settle in would be huge,
mhm,
because Walker didn't do terrible last year. Like, he come out rough in the first inning, but then he always settled in. But you don't want to be behind 4-0 after the first inning.
mhm,
So if Turnbull can pitch like this all year, that would be amazing. I'm not saying that's guaranteed, because he's had a rough couple of years the last 1 or 2 years. So you don't really know what you're getting from him. But Caleb Cotham, like, I don't know what he tells them or what he preaches, but it works really well. So
mhm. But yeah, I mean, think of all the guys who have struggled in their careers and have come to Philly, and I mean, Christopher Sanchez has been up and down for a couple of years, and I remember a couple of years ago there was like, oh, we traded Curtis Mead for him, like what a dumb trade, like this guy stinks, and then I mean now he's really starting to put it together. I mean,
yeah,
yeah, well, who's to say you can't do the same thing for Turnbull? I mean, he's still
yeah,
relatively young, but yeah, his stuff looked good. He was in complete control. It was horrible weather too, which obviously is tough for
yeah.
pitchers. Um, and he didn't seem to phase him. So I mean,
No.
him being good, I mean, that could open
His
us up.
pitches looked solid too. Like, even in the rain, his
Mhm.
splitter looked really good. Um, Now I want to get into Ricardo Pinto here in a little bit, but Turnbull just looked really solid, and the team surprisingly didn't look all that bad for the absolute garbage weather
Mhm.
that we were getting. But
Yeah.
yeah, Schwarber went 1 for 4. Turner went Schwarber went 1 for 5. Um, Turner went 1 for 4. Harper should have been 4 for 4 with a double in
Mm.
there, but
Yeah, he got
um,
robbed.
yeah, what's his name? I always want to say the wrong first name. Will Benson. I always want to say like Weston or something like that. Um, Made a nice catch there in center field. Bowen went over in the 4th spot, but he's had a really good start to the season. I almost want to I almost want to bump JT down already and move Bohm up to the 4 hole just because he's been hitting, but we
Mhm.
can possibly discuss that later. Um, Everyone else though, besides like Harper and Marsh, really didn't do much.
Mhm.
So there's that. Marsh had a sneaky good game. I don't think with Harper doing all his magic, you didn't really realize that Marsh was 3 for 4 with a home run. So
Was that I was meant to ask you, was that home run pretty close to where you guys were sitting? It kind of looked like it for
it was more in the corner. We're more
oh,
in
okay.
left center.
Oh,
We're
gotcha.
like right
Okay.
behind the WB Mason sign.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So
But yeah, I mean, and what you were saying too about, I mean, kind of do some overall thoughts on what we've seen the
yeah.
first 5 games. Um, they just got to hit better. I mean,
hmm
I know after what day was that? Whenever Brogdon came in and coughed, it was people were oh, the bullpen, we should have done more of the bull. It's like they just got to hit. I mean,
Uh-huh.
they only hit one game this entire first 5 games, which was that game we were just talking about, and that was really
Yeah.
just Harper having 6 RBIs. So um, they just got to start getting these bats rolling.
Yeah. No, it's really what it is. It's they just gotta get the bats going because you're putting a lot of I don't want to say unnecessary, but like almost unnecessary pressure on your bullpen to keep, or not even just on the bullpen. You're putting a lot of unnecessary pressure on your pitching to just keep it close when you really don't need to be. So
hmm And like Trey and Castellanos have been driving me crazy. like,
yeah, I don't know why Trey keeps swinging. Like he's definitely done better not swinging at the junk this year as he did last year, but it's still not where. I can't say I watched a lot of Trey Turner before he got here, but I watched a decent amount while he was on the Nationals because he played us. And I mean, I don't remember him swinging at junk the way he is now. And he just, something just seems a little off from where he used to be. But
hmm
I definitely believe he'll find it. It's
hmm
just, it's hard for me to believe that both like him and Segura kind of come here after having like always hitting above 300 and they both come here and they can't hit like 280.
yeah,
And so like I just yeah, I don't know.
yeah. And I mean, I've been under the belief that last year was an anomaly for Trey, and that
Mhm.
that won't happen again. And
Yeah.
obviously, we're only 5 games in, so I mean, I feel like April and May is more of like you know a body of work, and then it really starts to turn on
Yeah.
in June, just across baseball. But yeah, he just looks lost up there, and I mean,
Mhm.
hasn't really shown any. Same with Castellanos, both of them have looked pretty lost at the plate. So,
Yeah, it's clear
well,
that like in my mind the first 2 months maybe in just the first month or so of the season, it's like all right, here's what I did in spring training. Let's now apply it to pressure situations. And it just like either it's just not translating or I really don't know what's going on, but it's just
yeah,
not.
I mean, it
Yeah.
could also, I mean, another professional athletes and Harper seem to have no problem, but I mean, playing these games in that cold must just be
Oh yeah.
miserable,
Well, that's
like
what I was
in
gonna
that
say
rain.
too. They come from Florida to this.
Yeah.
And so
Well, yeah, I mean, even when I was down in Clearwater for 4 days and coming back here, I was like, yo, this is horrible. like
yeah,
so they've been down for, a month and a
2
half,
months.
and now they're
Yeah.
coming up, of course, and of course next week too, it's gonna be like set like mid 60s and stuff, and they're on the road.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, they're professional athletes. Bryce obviously had no issues
Mhm.
the other night, but it's this, I don't know. It's like you get so excited for opening day, and it's like
Mhm.
the season, and then it's like these rainy, miserable 2-run, 3-2, 5-2 games,
Yeah.
and so I mean, for Harvard to have a game like that at this time of year too, which I mean that's kind of
Well,
good
for
as
Harper to
like
be
one of the best
playing
games of
this
the
time of
year.
year in
Yeah.
general, like he hasn't played this time of year the last like 2 years really.
hmm
So, just having him there, I was hoping like having if he wasn't here, we'd definitely be 1-5 right now.
Oh yeah,
Put it that way.
100%.
So, actually, we might be. No, no,
I
we'd
don't
be
think he
one in
did too
five
much in
because
that
we would have
Sunday
won that
game.
Braves
Yeah.
game. Yeah, but
Hey,
yeah,
he didn't even play in that Braves game, I don't think, because he
no,
like
he
fell
didn't.
over the camera well.
Yeah, they gave him a rest, that
Yeah.
a scheduled rest day. If you're listening, I was doing air quotes.
No, I was at that game on Saturday. It was just miserable. I think I've never left the Phillies game early, but that one I just had enough. I think we left.
Yeah,
I forget what any, but like it was like right off the bat, it's like Kelsey and Cox throw the first pitch, the place is jumping, it's great, and then
yeah,
he just like unnecessarily throws himself over the railing. It's like, dude, what are you doing?
I
Like,
know, I
like
know.
I
He
love
was
how he
too hyped.
plays, but it's like, dude, like tone it down a little bit. Like,
Yeah,
don't be
well, it didn't
dumb.
even look like he was anywhere close to catching the ball either.
No,
Yeah,
it was like everyone knew it was gonna be out of play.
yeah,
So I mean, it's just weird. Like Harper does all this stuff, and I feel like the last couple of years he's gotten hurt from like like just like getting hit or like getting
yeah.
hit in the thumb, getting. Sorry, going on a tangent there. I'll reel it
No,
back in,
you're good.
but
Yeah, no, his
but
injuries recently have been kind of obscure things like
yeah.
tearing the UCL in your elbow. That's a pitcher thing, not a player thing.
Hmm.
Um, and so just stuff like that. It's like it's not like soft tissue injuries where once you have one, they're gonna keep coming back. They're like structural things where it's like, all right, stuff happens. So,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, have you been worried so far with what you've been seeing these last 5 games?
um, yes and no. Um, the yes part might just be I'm discouraged because I thought we were gonna come out hot after how locked in everybody sounded. Um, but I'm also not worried just because it's only been 6 games
Hmm.
and we play 162 games. So you can worry all you want early on, but you have to remember they're like we were just saying they're coming from Florida to this cold weather that plays a part in it. Um, and they go from doing baseball 24/7 getting ready for the season to pretty much coming back to a normal life where they
Hmm.
like because I don't know how many of their families actually travel with them down to spring training, but now they're back with their families if they weren't before. Um, and I'm not saying that's a distraction because your family's not a distraction. I'm not trying to say that, but it's
Hmm.
just another thing that is now part of your daily routine that wasn't for the last month and a half to 2 months.
Hmm.
So um, it's just the regular season is just an adjustment from spring because spring is almost like um going to summer camp, and then you
Hmm.
come back from summer camp and it's an adjustment almost. So
Yeah.
um, I'm not worried yet. I'll be worried if we're under 500 at that June mark or May mark or
Hmm.
whatever it was that we are always under 500 at.
Yeah.
But if we can't pull it together soon, if the bats don't be more consistent, I'll be a little worried.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everybody in the National League East right now is not doing too great, which I mean, I think the Braves came in a little bit too amped up, wanting their revenge. Like, oh,
I
like,
really
all
think
right,
that's what part most of that was. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, all right, you got your revenge in April when we beat you 2 years in a row in October. Like, congratulations. Like,
You got your revenge when it doesn't matter.
yeah, like not one person in that stadium cared. It was just
Yeah.
whatever. But
Well, now
uh,
I will say those games against the Braves are more important than
that is
um
true. That is true.
just because they're gonna if it comes down to us versus the Braves at the end, those will be really important games having
Hmm.
dropped them early.
Yeah.
But um the Braves lost to the White Sox, so what are we doing? So
I don't like how they like cut back on divisional games last year with the schedule. Like there was just something about,
I
having like
understand wanting to play everybody,
mhm.
but the divisional games were electric.
Yeah, like, I mean, just like, you're 3 games behind the Braves and you have a 3-game homestand against them in September. It's like you can get a 3-game, you can, tie them. Just that excitement kind of
Yeah.
like is kind of not a thing as much anymore. So like these
Hmm.
games are important earlier in the year. So
Yeah,
that is a good point that you made because I didn't really even think about that.
yeah. But I mean, if we get hot and the Braves get cold,
Hmm.
whole different change because those games can mean nothing then. So
Yeah.
um, they only matter if it's tight at the end of the season, and you almost have to hope it's tight at the end of the season because if the Braves are going to brave and it's tight, that means we're playing well. So
Hmm.
um, gotta hold out
Yeah.
hope.
Last thing I wanted to ask you was Rojas. I mean, we talked a lot about him the first two episodes.
Hmm.
Obviously, I was never on board with bringing him up. I think they should have just sent him down, let Witt and Pache kind of, platoon, um, and figure that all out, and then let Marsh just play every day, no matter what.
Hmm.
Um, he's not looking good up there. Just one hit. It was a little swinging bunt down the third base line. I mean, he just
Yeah.
chopped everything into the ground. I mean, how long would the leash be for you until you send him back down?
Um, I'd give him what month are we in? We're in April. I wouldn't start thinking about any type of leash until the end of April.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would essentially reevaluate at that point. Like if I were
Mm-hmm.
Topper and Dombrowski, what I would have said is we're not gonna talk about how Rojas is doing, and we're gonna essentially put a Outlook notification on our calendar for is there 31 days in April? I don't know, for May 1st. Put a notification for May 1st on our calendar that says, all right, let's sit down and have a serious discussion as to how did Rojas do the first month of the season
Mm-hmm.
and go after that. You got to let him readjust to big league pitching. Spring training isn't big league pitching. I will say his swing mechanics look better. Like his actual swing is a swing. If you take away the contact he's making with the ball, it looks like a
Mm-hmm.
swing. It doesn't look like he's slapping the ball. His legs are definitely involved, which I compliment K Long with. Now, whether or not he needed time in AAA to just see that, hey, with this swing, I can make contact, even if it's
Mm-hmm.
against worse pitching. I can make contact with this swing. Um, we'll never know because we're not at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. His defense, it's been really good, and he just glides out there and he covers more ground than you really realize he's covering. Um, and I think that's super valuable just with having Castellanos in right field. You can and Marsh in left field. You can have Rojas shade to right field a little more. That Casty's not really good back to his right. And so you just let Rojas cover more ground so Casty can kind of position himself like he has been the last few years, where everything he's coming in left on, which is where he's been strong with. So I think the value of having Castellanos being a better defensive player because you have Rojas essentially covering his blind side, I think
Mm-hmm.
is more valuable than people realize. But offensively, I have a whole rant on this, but offensively, um,
And we can get to that too,
we can, yeah,
in a
it's up
little
to you.
bit.
Yeah. But
Just
I'll just
go
leave it at
for it.
I'll
Let it
just leave
rip.
it at that. No, I'll leave it at that. We can
All right. But yeah, I
yeah.
mean, my point before we get to Drew's rant here, because it all kind of ties together, is I'm totally fine with Rojas. Like I like him. I think he's gonna develop. I mean, I would like to see him develop um in the majors, just because I mean, no one's hitting right now. So we're not losing because Rojas isn't hitting. Nobody's hitting besides one game of Bryce, and Bohm and JT have looked pretty good.
No,
Um,
exactly.
Other than that, like my biggest thing with him, my biggest like reason I'm kind of anti Rojas is because I just hate when they take the bat out of Marsh's hands. Like, so I saw this tweet today. It says, imagine from Ryan Spader, baseball stat guy on Twitter. He said, imagine a player with Juan Soto's batting average, Mike Trout's on base percentage, and Bryce Harper's slugging percentage. And then he goes on and uh, he took Marsh's 162 game stats, batting 285, 362, on base, 476 slugging, 17 home runs, 8 triples, and he had a higher OPS in the last 162 games than Adolis Garcia, Bollywood Jr.,
Dang.
Marcus Simeon, Jose Ramirez, Julio Rodriguez. Like,
Yeah.
if they keep up their belief that he can't hit lefties and he's still getting benched against lefties like multiple times a week,
Hmm.
I'm gonna lose my mind because I just like I think
Yeah.
he's I think he's I mean I think him, Bohm, and Stott are gonna keep this thing rolling.
Yeah.
For
Well,
years
and
to
the
come. So
the big thing that I saw was that, like you're saying, the top, and like I was kind of getting at when we were doing the recap, the top four guys aren't hitting,
mm-hmm.
or at least weren't hitting. They're not. They're still not really hitting. And what was happening is those top four guys aren't hitting and scoring runs, and then Bohm and Stott and Marsh were all hitting. And since the top four guys aren't scoring runs, the guys that are hitting in Bohm, Stott, and Marsh, they're getting on base. And then you have Rojas coming up, and you need to score runs at some point. And now it's on Rojas, essentially, who isn't there to be a run producer. He's there to
Mm-hmm.
be your defensive gem. And now you're kind of, everyone's banking on him, like, oh, look, we finally have runners on base. Rojas, hit the ball. And it's like, it's putting pressure that isn't fair on him because it was clear that his job told to him by Topper and Dombrowski is you don't have to produce at the plate. We would love you to produce at the plate, but what we want you to do is work on your swing. And if you don't produce, you don't produce. But now that the top of the lineup's not producing and the guys in front of Rojas are getting on base, well, now it's becoming an issue because Rojas is coming up in the key positions where we need to produce, and he's not gonna. And that's just not fair on him because that's not what his job is. It's like if you went to work and I don't really know what you do for work, but let's just say you're like I mean I know what you do. I just don't know the nitty gritty stuff. But like it's like if you went to work and you're working at like a grocery store per se for some reason, and you're like a cashier and that's all you do, and next thing you know, they come up to you and they're like, "All right, we need you to balance the accounts for all of our production," or I don't know what the word is, but we you need us to be,
Inventory.
yeah, we need you to be our inventory person or even like our accountant per se. And it's like, well, I don't know how to do that. I'm a cashier. You know what I mean? It's like that's a dumb
Mm-hmm.
example, but like,
Well, no, I mean, yeah. I mean, I will say though, like, I agree to that to an extent, but you know, if he's batting 220, 230, but like, I mean, he might like if he keeps this up, like, he's gonna be in like the 150s, you know. So, I mean, it's early. I believe in the kid. I like him. Um, but no, I do agree with what you're saying. Like, he's a defensive superstar. So,
mhm,
um, the guys we're paying just got to hit. It's really
yeah,
what it comes down to. Um,
it would honestly be like if we switched the lineup up and we had Stott lead off, followed by Bohm, or not Bohm, Marsh hitting second, Bohm hitting third, and then Harper hitting fourth, we would have produced a bunch of runs
mm-hmm.
over the weekend. And who knows? We wouldn't have won one of the Braves games, let's be honest, but it would have looked better because Harper would have come up with people on base and they would have had to pitch to him. Is essentially what it came to. And he was coming up, they weren't having to pitch to him, and so he was swinging over top of balls. He was swinging at stuff he probably shouldn't have been swinging at, but he was trying to get something going. And
Mm-hmm.
so like he was hitting the ball hard, and if there's people on base and he hit the ball hard, who knows, maybe runs would have scored. I don't know. But um yeah. There my rant is essentially there's unnecessary expectations being put on Rojas that
Mm-hmm.
just don't like. Rojas is solid. Rojas is the prototypical, like what the prototypical center fielder was for the longest time, which was you come up, you're an absolute, like, even for him to like be as good as he is in the outfield would have been like above and beyond what some people would have thought for a center fielder. Like center fielder, come up, be a wizard in the outfield. And if you like slap hit for 250 to 260, 270, we would absolutely be in love with you. And that's
Mhm.
what the prototypical like center fielder was for a while, which is exactly what we finally got. And now people are complaining. And it's like, well, you can't, not everyone's going to be Trout or Acuna or these guys where they're ridiculous in the outfield, like, and they're also ridiculous at the plate. Like, you can't have both all the time.
Mhm.
And people are expecting, like, Rojas to hit, I don't know, 300 in the gaps from the 9 hole. It's like, if the man's hitting 300, he should be batting leadoff.
Mhm.
But you don't expect Rojas to ever bat leadoff. You expect him to be in the 9 hole. So lower your expectations, people.
Mhm. Yeah, I think
It's been driving me crazy.
no, I agree with you. Like, I mean,
And then hold on, I don't want to cut you off, but
no, it's
just
fine. Yeah.
last thing, you can't have everything either. So like, if you want Bryce, if you want Trey, if you want Casty, Schwarber, Nola, Wheeler, I feel like I'm missing. You're gonna have to pay Bohm. You're gonna have to pay Stott. Like, if you want JT, that's who I'm thinking of. I forgot JT. If you want all those guys under large contracts, you're gonna have to have people like Rojas come up that cost absolutely nothing
Mhm.
and contribute. And he's contributing in the outfield, which is where we absolutely stink, which is defensively. And he's the one positive thing on the defense. Everyone else that we're paying to hit just needs to hit, and they're not doing that. So stop blaming Rojas when you should be blaming Schwarber, who hits under 200. But I know that's what he kind of just does. But
Schwarber has been having a good start,
yeah,
though. I'll be
he hasn't
honest.
he hasn't started well. Turner hasn't played well. Casty hasn't done anything. Harper finally did something. It's like, I don't know how JT's hit like one home run. That's about all he's done. But like, all these other guys that you're actually paying aren't doing anything. Rojas, you're not paying. You're not expecting him to hit like crazy. And then people on WIP morning show are calling in and complaining that Rojas isn't hitting. It's like, well, no, duh, he's not hitting. We're not expecting him to hit. We told him break camp with the team and figure out your swing against MLB pitching. Don't worry about hitting because we're paying these superstars to hit, and the superstars aren't hitting. So stop being frustrated with the superstars and taking it out on Rojas, and just take it out on the people that actually deserve it to be taken out on. There's my rant.
No, it. I think you're spot on. I mean, I'm all for letting Rojas develop as long as it doesn't take it, you know, make it Marsh a not everyday player. So far, it looks like it really hasn't been. I mean, and
Yeah.
also Merrifield's not been hitting good at all. I mean,
No.
they're paying him a nice chunk of change. I think like what 8 million.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. The big dogs gotta earn their checks. And I think they will. But also, I mean, Cassiano's first year, it's like, oh, he'll turn around, just never turned it around. And then
Yeah.
Turner really only had what 2 really good months.
Hmm.
Was horrible all year, so it is like a little bit PTSD of like,
How last
crap,
year
like, is
started.
this
Yeah.
who these guys are now? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, so it's a little bit scary, but
Hmm.
but yeah, I do agree that like Rojas gets. I mean, he's too much of a talking point, and I fall into it too. Like,
Yeah.
but
Well,
he's like the easy scapegoat right
it's
now.
the low hanging fruit.
Hmm.
And it's like, stop putting the blame on Rojas when he's doing what we asked him to do.
Hmm.
And what we're asking everyone else to do, no one else is doing their job, so stop blaming the guy that's actually doing his job. So now, granted, I don't think they expected Rojas to come out over 13 to start the year, but I also don't think they thought that was out of the realm of possibility of him coming out and going over 13 to start the year. So anyway, that was the part of the show where Drew comes out and rants. So thank you for. I don't know if y'all ever saw
Yeah.
VeggieTales, but when I had this idea, had this rant that I wanted to do, I texted Brandon earlier today, and so like the VeggieTales thing where Larry comes out and sings a silly song is, and now it's time for silly songs with Larry, the part of the show where Larry comes out and sings a silly song. I'm like, Brandon, we should do some type of intro to this rant, but I just kind of started ranting, and I'm like, we should do a thing where it's like, now it's time for Drew's rant, the part of the show where Drew rants about something Phillies related.
Yeah,
And that's what
we'll
that
definitely.
was. So
Yeah, our conversation kind of led perfectly into it. So,
yeah,
but
which I
next time,
assumed it would, but
next time.
yes.
But I mean, yeah,
Let's
that's pretty much our recap.
yeah, and roster updates were pretty much in there too. Brogdon got DFA'd. That's
Yeah.
the only thing that really happened.
Along those same lines too, I was listening to like after the final pitch, and everyone's just like grilling Brogdon. It's like, dude, we can't hit right now. Like
Yeah, I know.
they scored an average of like 3 runs. That's not gonna cut it, you know.
Yeah.
Like we
No, I
have,
will
you
say
know.
Brogdon was given a really short leash.
Hmm. Yeah,
So,
I was actually really surprised he got DFA like that.
mhm.
Has he got claimed yet? I don't know if he
I really
has.
didn't think anyone would claim him after the last
Yeah,
2 years that he had.
I believe in him still. There's something in there. He looks like his head's just like
He
he's
even said himself, he's just something's
something's
off.
just off with him. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a shame. I mean, if it's lack of confidence or what it, I mean, hopefully, I'm sure the Phillies have like, performance coaches that can hopefully get him out of it because he has good stuff. I mean, he had good stuff. But
Mhm.
yeah, he was getting grilled like, and I'm on like WIP and stuff. I'm like, come on, like we scored 2 runs. Like, you gotta have impeccable bullpen to salvage this game. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then Pinto, we talked about him a little bit. I mean, that was a pretty cool
Yeah.
story how he driven down from Rochester, got there
Yep.
in the 4th inning because of traffic, threw on the jersey, and had a 4-inning save, right? 4-inning
Yeah.
save, pretty
Yeah, he only
rare.
gave up 2 runs.
Yeah, I
Well,
thought
two,
his
two earned.
I also never put together like he played for us in 2017. Like, I
I
remember the
put it
name.
together earlier when I listened to Jack Fritz talking
Oh,
about he
nice,
remembers who he is.
nice.
So Jack Fritz filled me in on that. I don't have I'm not trying to act like I have a direct line to Jack
And
Fritz where he filled me in before I got on. No, I was listening to WIP. So, which I probably should stop doing because it just fires me up. But, um, yeah.
well, I like
But I
WIP.
will
Yeah, I
say,
mean, yeah,
Pinto. I thought it was funny how I was at that game and when Pinto came in, um, they have the new out of town scoreboard where they'll put the players' faces on it from our team, like the batter that's up and the pitcher that's pitching. They didn't even have a name or picture for Pinto until like the 8th or 9th inning.
dang,
Then they
that's
finally even
crazy.
got a name up there. So
They
yeah, no one
probably like took his
the,
picture down in the
in the tunnel. The
yeah.
one I heard some guy down from me saying, "Who just came in? I have no idea who that is." And I'm like looking at the screen and I'm like, I don't see anything there, but I see 51. I'm like, the only other person I knew that wore 51 on the Phillies was Chooch, and that was however long ago. And I'm like, I don't think anyone's actually worn it since then. And so that I'm aware of at least. And so I'm like, that's got to be Pinto because there's no one in our bullpen wearing that number this year. So I'm like, it's got to be Pinto. So I went to turn to him to tell him, but I don't think they cared enough because I don't think they heard me. But
did,
um,
did you um did you notice too when you were down there like they changed the scoreboard up, so they changed all the scoreboards
yeah,
up?
they changed they definitely changed artistically like the stuff that they put up. It
Yeah.
looks different, but they also I think changed which scoreboards are showing what a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
cuz
I
I
was like
always
looking
look.
around for stuff and it took me a second to figure out where
Yeah.
everything is. Yeah.
I always look at Velo on like the banner that they have out in like first baseline, and it like wasn't there. And
Hmm.
then I was listening to WIP again, and Jack Fritz was talking about like I guess the Anderson and oh my gosh, Scott Fransky were like couldn't find it either. I was
Yeah,
like, you're
yeah.
not the only one. But
They got to tell people when they move stuff.
yeah. But yeah, that's our roster updates.
Hmm.
Phillies by the numbers.
Let's get it. So
Episode 3. I'm seeing a 3 on your shoulder right now.
you do see a 3 on my shoulder right now. So I thought I had this open, but I accidentally closed it. So we're getting to the Phillies
Jeff
here.
Francoeur is our highlighted player.
That's where I was going.
Delman Young, he wore number 3. Remember him?
Yes, I do remember. What a dude.
I was like so hyped when we signed him because he just had that like I think he was like the ALCS MVP or the ALDS MVP the year before with like the Orioles, or no, but the Tigers. Maybe it was a couple years before that. And he had like that clutch double against the Orioles or with the Orioles. And I was like, oh, this guy's good. And then he just was not.
I was watching JM Baseball right before I got on here, and they were doing their ref guess thing
Mm-hmm.
that they do, and Matt Joyce came up, and I'm looking, I'm like, how can I not figure out who the heck this is? Like, the dude batted 290 something
Mm-hmm.
with the Braves, and then went to the Marlins and hit like 250, and then came to us for like 50 games in 2021. And I'm like, who in the world is this? I kept going to Sean Rodriguez, and I'm like, that's not him because there's no Pittsburgh on this player card.
Mm-hmm.
And for the life of me, I couldn't figure it out. And I heard Matt Joyce, and I'm like, would not have got there. Forgot Matt Joyce played for us. But yeah, so in all reality, the not the honorable mentions for this year number. Like we said, Jeff Francoeur, not really honorable mention, just mention because I loved Frenchie. So yeah, he
He's
was
a good
fun.
good
He was
baseball
fun.
guy.
Yeah, Hunter
Yeah.
Pence. I almost forgot he wore
Mm.
that number, and definitely thought he was here longer than like 2.5 seasons. So
I do have a Pence #3 jersey.
so do I.
I was so sad when they traded him.
Yeah.
Too. Um, like I thought he was almost like a Brandon Marsh type guy, just like is gonna carry on the
Uh huh.
be like
Well,
yeah.
his first full season with us, he hit 324.
He was a stud that year. He was a
Yeah.
stud. I remember him coming here. I'm just like, holy cow, this guy's a beast.
Yeah. The next year his average dropped, but his home runs and RBIs like doubled and tripled. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it is what it is. He had a really good career with the Giants, and then kind of
Mm-hmm.
resurged for the Rangers the other year.
Mm-hmm.
But Hunter Pence, honorable mention. Come back.
Remember Roger Bernardino?
I know the name.
he like he was like a national for a long time, and he came up. I think
Okay.
he probably played like just September with us.
You
So he's
remember
a
the
stud.
name Abraham Nunez?
I do. I
I
do remember
don't
him.
I don't remember his face. I saw the name on the list and I'm like, oh, I know that name.
I feel like I just remember having baseball cards of him when I was a kid. That's like my only recollection of him.
Oh well, he played a while for the Pirates.
But
He was never
yeah,
very good.
yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you're the stuff you're sending me today about Chuck Klein, I found
yes.
super interesting.
Yeah, so I'm torn. I'm not really torn. I think there's a clear. I also don't want to forget mentioning Todd Pratt. Sorry, quickly. Solid backup catcher for just here for a while. We're number 3. Um, yeah, I'm not really torn between who to give the number 3 to. I'm gonna break the ice here and clearly give it to Bryce Harper. But when the Phillies started first wearing numbers on their jerseys in 1932, the first player to wear number 3 was actually in that very year, and it was Chuck Klein. He only wore it for that season though, and then I was looking up, Wikipedia had it listed that Chuck Klein wore like 8 different numbers. Um, he wore the number 3, he wore the number 1, wore number 14, wore number 32, and wore number 36, amongst other numbers. And now number 1, 14, 32, and 36 are all retired for other historic Phillies players. So I just thought that was funny. And that he wore 32, or no, he wore number 3, and Bryce Harper's number 3 will probably be retired, if I can imagine, if everything stays on the trajectory that it's been on. Um, so I just think it's kind of funny that Chuck Klein wore at least 5 different numbers, and those 5 will probably be all retired at some point in Phillies history. But Chuck Klein never really had a number retired. They just, for players that were deemed to like have their numbers retired, prior to numbers being a thing. They got like a plaque with their initials, and it's up there retired for him. And Chuck Klein was one of those guys as he started playing before numbers were a big deal. Same with Pete Alexander. So those two guys have their numbers retired per se. But yeah, I saw Chuck Klein was on this list as wearing number 3, and I was like, hold up, this isn't as straightforward as I thought it was going to be, but it still is. But yeah, Chuck Klein, I saw a thing that said him and Lou Gehrig are the only players to ever have 400 total bases in 3 separate seasons. And I thought that was crazy.
That is wild. I'm looking at pictures of him right now, and it's just crazy how long ago this was.
Yeah, I know. Well,
But I feel like he was the Phillies kind of like, you know, when you think about baseball history, it's always the,
he
the
was Bryce Harper before
DiMaggios and
Bryce Harper.
the Mantles. Yeah. But I mean, Chuck Klein was like he was our Lou Gehrig. He was our,
Yeah. Well,
our
like
superstar of that era.
he really was pretty much Bryce Harper before Bryce Harper because he was a left-handed bat, right-handed throwing right fielder that wore the number 3. And I also thought it was really funny. So he played for the Phillies from 1928 until 1933, and then he signed with the Cubs, and then came back to Philly in 1936 and finished his
He did
career.
he did play he played 39 the first half of 39 with the Pirates. Did you catch that?
Oh, I see that now. No, he played the
Isn't
second
that
half.
crazy? Oh, second half.
Yeah, so it's listed
I
second.
wonder how contracts like worked back then.
I don't know. He was definitely traded.
Dang, career average 320.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna get into. So
Sorry.
his first season, well, his first 1, 2, 3, his first 3 seasons, he hit over 350. His second and third season, he played about 150 games in both years and still hit over 350. So it was
Pretty
crazy back
remarkable.
then. Average was all that mattered back then. But so his second year in 1929, I don't know how he didn't win MVP. He hit 356 with 43 home runs and 145 RBIs.
Jeez.
And he was 11th in MVP ranking.
Wow.
Like today, if you do that today, people would be like bowing at your feet
Yeah.
and just like, here, have my kids. So um that's just ridiculous. And then
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was really crazy that so the first year that you could wear numbers for the Phillies, when he wore number 3, he went on to win the MVP that year. And that's the only time he actually won MVP, was that first year when he wore the number 3. So I just kind of thought that was kind of fascinating as we were
Yeah.
talking about the number 3.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of talk of Chuck Klein for not picking him for the number. But Chuck
No, I
Klein,
thought it was super interesting.
yeah, Chuck Klein, great, absolutely amazing baseball player. His baseball reference page is a sight to behold. If you have never looked at it, look at it. But we can pivot to the actual winner of the number 3, which is none other than Mr. Harper.
Yeah. I
He
mean,
looks so
I was
good in Phillies uniform.
he does. I was thinking I mean, we get to see him every day. We don't kind of talk that much about him, but I just wanted to hear I feel like when he signed with the Phillies, when you see that notification pop up, it's do
Mm-hmm.
you remember where you were when
Oh
that came
yes, I
up?
was in my dorm room and I absolutely freaked out, and I ran down the hall to my buddy Dan, and well, he wasn't in his room at the time, and then he came back and the first thing he did was run into my room and freak out because he was at class. But
Hmm.
uh,
Yeah. I remember I have a similar story
and
because
I thought it was a joke too, and it wasn't, and I was like, what the
mhm.
heck?
No, I remember I was in class and that whole off season, which is remember how much of a roller coaster it was? It
Yeah.
was Phillies are heavily in, but Harper doesn't want to come here, and blah blah
Uh-huh.
blah, and like he's Dodgers, Giants, and I remember like that week being so like he's not coming here. Like I just give up hope.
Yeah.
Like we got McCutcheon, we got Realmuto. It'll be a good year, whatever.
hmm
Like he's gonna go to L.A. or the Giants,
They were
and
like,
like
there's no
every
way he doesn't go to the Giants, and Giants are
mhm,
offering him like this much money and like all that stuff.
yeah, and I just remember like sitting in class and I would always check my phone during that time just because I knew it was hopefully coming up soon.
Yeah.
And I just remember like I usually don't get going. I got a good amount of calls back then, but like I just remember my phone blowing up, and I was like, no, like could this be it? Like could this be it? And then 10 minutes later, getting out and seeing it, and just like shaking, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Oh, that was just
I
such an
didn't
amazing time.
I wasn't I'm an engineer, and so I was in like surrounded by other engineers at college and stuff. And some of them were into sports. Most of them, if they were into sports, they were like, kind of like in the football. And I just wasn't really surrounded by many baseball nuts, um, which is unfortunate because when that happened, other people were freaking out too, but they weren't freaking out as much as I was. And I only had my one buddy Dan who was as much into baseball as I was, and he was at class at the time, or like at swim practice or something. And so he wasn't around to freak out with me until later on. Um, but yeah, I wasn't around as many people that really cared about sports as I would have liked to have been. So the freaking out that I had was quite delayed to
hmm
yeah, but it was a good time still. But
No,
um
yeah.
if I was around more actual like Phillies fans and stuff like that, it would have yeah. If I was out at like Penn State or something, oh, it would have there would have been dude, could you imagine what Temple was probably like
It's probably going
when they got
nuts.
that new yeah. Or even
Probably going
Villanova too,
insane.
but yeah.
Yeah, I have like people that I went to school with weren't like they were kind of whatever. I mean, my roommates stuff were like excited, but not. I mean, Harper's been my favorite player since he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Honestly, I remember having his like Sports Illustrated subscription and like getting that one, and I always got more excited when the baseball because I was like 11 at that time. And I
Yeah.
always got more excited when the baseball people were on it, and I was like, "Whoa! Like, who is this high school kid?" And like,
Yeah.
I was remember he's like, "Oh, he's like gonna be the number one pick." Like, oh, like the Phillies aren't gonna get him. Like that stinks. Whatever.
Yeah.
But like, I'm like, yeah, at least I'll be able to like watch his career and like get to witness history.
And now we have
And
them.
yeah, and it used to just feel like such a pipe dream
Yeah.
because I remember like 2017, it's like, oh, Harper's coming up as a free agent, and I'm like, he like that kind of lines
Like,
up
there's
with
no
our
way.
rebuild, but it's like,
Yeah.
no, he wouldn't do that to the Nationals, like
Uh-huh.
what a, and then oh yeah, it's just but and the memories he's given us after, like
Mm-hmm.
he's just he's the man, he is the man. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Well, I
like
mean, so like if you actually look at his numbers, you'd have a fair argument to say that his statistical career with the Nationals is way better than he's been with the Phillies. But he's
mhm,
been hampered by injuries and being on garbage teams for a little bit here in
mhm,
Philly. So like his first year, as like everybody, it seems like you get off to a slow start your first year. He only hit 260, but he still had 35 home runs and 114 RBIs, which is quite solid. And
mhm.
then you have the COVID year, but he still had losing the number 13 home runs, 33 RBIs, batted 268. It's hard to tell if that's a good year or not. But
Wait, you said 13 home runs
yeah,
in 58? Excuse me, 58 games.
33 RBIs, sorry. And 58 games. I don't know what that puts you on pace for.
I'm trying to figure that out.
I'm not that quick with the math in my head.
36.
Yeah, which is
Uh,
right around. It's right on par for a
yeah,
normal Harper season.
yeah,
But then he won the MVP the following year. Then, so
yeah.
where I
I
loved how everyone was saying there's no way he should win the MVP. He's only got 84 RBIs. But like you look at the lineup in front of him, no one was getting on base.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. His second half that year, like his August, I remember was just like
mhm.
it was like holy crap, like this dude is the best player I've ever seen. Like
Mhm.
he was just he was on a mission.
Yeah.
Now he got hit in the face that year too. That was crazy.
Oh, really? Was that year? I forgot about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean,
So he got hit in the face in 21. In 22, he broke his thumb and tore his
yeah.
UCL.
Mhm.
Um, so
Yeah.
bro was just walking around with like his arm hanging like this pretty much, and he still hit 18 home runs, hit 286. But last year, like his stats last year, you would look at him and say, I don't know. Like if you look at the past 2 years combined, you'd definitely say, oh, Harper's regressing a lot. But you have to take in the fact that he missed how many games? He didn't even play 100 games in 22. He played
Mhm.
most of the games last year, but he had a torn UCL, so his power was there. Well, he had just had Tommy John, so his power's not going to be there, and it takes a while. But you could see once he was starting to more so fully recover, his power was coming back, and he was scary in the playoffs.
Mhm.
Like he was back to like 22 playoff Harper.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, his playoff performances have just been like just incredible. I mean, that's really like where he's capturing the hearts of Phillies fans. And obviously, like the MVP season was great.
Mm-hmm.
And his first couple seasons were real solid. I mean, I'm just really hoping for a clean, like no injury, 35 home run, 100 RBI, 290 or above season from him.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like we've been robbed of that for you know the last two seasons. Statistically speaking, he's still done great things, but
Yeah, his OPS is still in tops of all of MLB
hmm
since he came here. So I'm not
yeah,
too worried. But
yeah,
I think you definitely give it to him, um, number
I
wise.
agree.
Um, but Chuck Klein.
He's a two-time MVP and Chuck Klein's a one-time. You know what I'm
But
saying?
Chuck Klein also won the Triple Crown,
Yeah, I mean,
and he's a Hall
this
of
was a
Famer.
different era back then, though.
Bryce Harper's not a Hall of Famer
Yet,
yet.
I actually though I was thinking like his stats. I mean, he's 31. Like his stats aren't like his overall stats. Like it's gonna
Harper's.
yeah. Because I think I mean when he was like back in like 2015, 16, I was like wow, like he's a lock to have 500 home runs. Um, like 2,500 hits, maybe get to 3,000. Like, but I mean, he's only at 309. Um,
Don't worry, he's on pace for 97 this year.
that's true. He'll be at 400 by the end of the year.
Yeah, there you go. Look at it that way.
But yeah, I mean, Harper's the man.
Yeah.
He is the man.
Yeah, we're a little recency biased with this pick, but I feel like it's hard to still give it to Chuck Klein because he just wore the number for one season.
Yeah.
Um, and it was in a time where numbers really didn't mean much to people yet.
hmm
So, um, Chuck Klein, we're not discrediting you at all. You just didn't wear the number long enough.
Yeah.
1 year
I mean,
doesn't work.
speaking of numbers and Bryce Harper, I'm upset that like I mean, obviously you gotta retire it for Halliday and like tragic thing that happened and everything, but
Hmm.
like selfishly, just like I don't know, I feel like it'd be so much cooler if he had 34. Like I don't know.
I don't know. Now you're retiring two different numbers. The Nationals can retire his number if they really want to, and
I
then
don't think they
we
will
can. They
have
probably
30
won't.
left like that.
And then we can retire his number three, and that way we can slowly start working at retiring the number three in every single Phillies sports team.
Oh yeah,
Because Iverson's number is
Sixers.
retired, so
There we go.
Harper's number will probably be retired. Um,
There's not many number threes in hockey though.
is born. Flyers hockey reference. I'm just trying to see if sweater numbers. Okay, number 1, 2, and 4 are retired for the Flyers. So we just need 3 yet. Let's see who's worn the number 3 for the Flyers. No one worth retiring their number. No offense to any of these people. Oh right, yeah, Radko Good is wearing number 3.
We'll
So
go over this on our Flyers podcast, all right?
the one that we have. Because we have a Flyers podcast.
I don't know enough
Tune
about
into that.
hockey.
You all come find our Eagles podcast and tune into that.
Well,
You'll be looking for a long time.
While Drew's digging through Flyers number 3s.
Now I'm on to the Eagles.
Oh, Eagles. Let's take a look at who we're playing these next couple weeks. We got 3 against the Cardinals 3 against the Nationals starting tomorrow night down in DC. Then we got 3 against the Cardinals out in St. Louis.
Don't worry. Don't want to cut you off. Nolan Smith, he'll retire the number 3 for us.
There we go. We go.
Okay, we can just move on from this now. Yep. All right, keep going.
No, sorry. 4 against the Pirates, and then the Rockies are coming to CBP. So, and the White Sox coming here. So, hopefully we can start hitting because it's teeing us up for a nice record in April if we can just not choke.
We should be able to hit the Nationals, you would hope. Bryce always goes back to the Nationals park and just rakes.
Mm-hmm.
What's their park name? Is it called Nationals Park?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. Cardinals, is that at St. Louis?
Yeah.
Okay. He just hits walk-offs there. Should hit the Pirates. Should hit the Rockies.
Pirates are hot right now. Pirates are doing good. They got off to a really hot start last year, I think, too.
Yeah, they were. Last 2 years, they've been first in the Central.
Yeah.
And then they come back to reality.
But it's all if Rojas can hit, then I was kidding. No, they got it. They got to hit. Turner hit. Cassie hit. Everybody hit.
Hey, we're just looking.
Stott's not doing good either, really.
No, but he's been a little shaky on both ends of the ball. Mm-hmm. But looking for a Nola bounce back tomorrow.
Nola was. We didn't really talk about him, but he was really bad that first game.
Yeah, there was something I was gonna say about Nola, and I can't remember what I was gonna say. But yeah, he's just got to stay on top of his curveball.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a lot of it. But that's what to look for. A Nola bounce back tomorrow would be huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice rest day for everybody. Hopefully they can regroup and get it going. But
yeah, and we're recording this on Thursday, by the way, in case people.
Yes, it is Thursday, April 4th. So tomorrow. So when you're listening, I'm not gonna have this out till tomorrow, more than likely, unless I work some magic tonight yet. So if you're listening to this on Friday, tomorrow means today.
Yeah. So that's what to look forward to. Excited to hopefully talk about some Phillies wins down in DC, and I guess it'd be in St. Louis by then. I guess both of the series would be done by the time we record. So
so we'll talk about those, and hopefully we got some good stuff to talk about.
So Mick Abel, you want to dive into him for a little bit?
Yeah, we can talk about him
to wrap this up.
Let's just cover. I'm not really gonna look for his high school stats or anything, but it was interesting looking at Kirk Ring's college stats. But Abel, Abel, I don't know, however you want to say it. Do they have phonetic here? No, they don't. But we drafted him right out of high school in the first round of the 2022 draft. He's been solid. He
Mm-hmm.
definitely has a lot left to be desired control wise, but even with the low control that he's had pretty good success.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, and I mean he was the number one high school pitcher in the draft
mhm.
that year. I remember.
And I liked how this is just a broad sense, but I liked how the Phillies drafted those
Mm-hmm.
2 years. They knew we weren't necessarily entering a rebuild, but we weren't like in the middle of a rebuild. They just knew that the
Mm-hmm.
pitching that they were drafting now didn't need to be ready now. It
Yeah.
had time to develop so they could take high upside guys like Painter and Abel, and then by the
Mm-hmm.
time we want them, they should be ready to come up. So I liked how
Yeah.
they drafted.
I mean, there were some good. I remember that year too. There was like some really good college pitchers. I actually just laughed because I'm really angry because like so yeah, there was like some really good college pitchers. So I was really stunned they took a high school pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
Um, guess he was drafted 29th in that first round out of Louisville by the Dodgers. Bobby
Was that?
Miller.
Okay. I was gonna say
I
I
think
was gonna
he's
guess Walker Bueller, but I would have been way off.
no, yeah, Miller's a stud, but no, happy with Abel. He's
Mm-hmm.
number one pitching prospect of that draft.
Did you see Bobby Miller's
Hasn't
first start this year?
yeah
Sorry,
yeah
that was just a thing of beauty.
no dude, the Dodgers never miss. Like
No, and even if they
if
do
we had
miss, they
Bobby
still
Miller right
turn the
now,
guys into, you know, almost guarantee. Like nothing against Bobby Miller, but if we would have gotten Bobby Miller, he would not be the same Bobby Miller that he is right now. So,
yeah, no, I had to regret that 100%. Um, but yeah, I mean some of his minor league stats. I mean last year in Double A and Triple A, 4.13 ERA, 5-6 record, only 113 innings pitched. But in those 113 innings, he had 132 strikeouts.
hmm
Um, and then his strikeouts per nine were 10 and a half. So, I mean, the stuff, obviously is electric to have 10 and a half strikeouts per nine.
yeah.
Um, but then also, 5.2 walks per nine, which is not great. Um, but I mean, the reason we have him in our second episode is because I think he's really going to make an impact this year in the majors at some point. I mean, obviously, Turnbull having a good game, I think, like if he can just you know be that fifth, sixth starter, provide us some depth, and then
hmm
be like kind of like that long like once Walker comes back, be that kind of long man.
Yeah.
I don't and like barring injury, but I mean honestly, I think I'm not sure how they view Colby Allard, but I think barring injury, I mean Mick's you know second man up probably behind Allard to come out of
So
AAA. So
I don't know how they view Allard. Aller? Is it Aller? There's no D, right? Yeah.
I
So
don't know. Yeah.
I don't think there's a D. I could be wrong, but we y'all know who we're talking about. I don't know how they view him. I don't know how I view him. I would bring up um what's his name? Now I'm gonna have to look up the Iron Picks lineup.
McGarry.
No, he's gonna be out of the bullpen this year. Maybe I'm thinking of someone that's not here anymore, or the guy I'm thinking of might
Oh,
not
David
even.
Buchanan.
Yeah, him. I would bring up Buchanan before Allard. Oh, it is Allard. I'd bring up Buchanan before I bring up, like, my order of bringing people up would probably be uh Bu oh, Buchanan's not on the 40 man.
Yeah, I feel like they just signed him to like
A minor league
hang
deal.
out in AAA and be like an Iron Pig guy because he spent a lot of time there
Yeah,
in his
I
first
mean
stint
if
with the
they
Phillies.
If they could find room on the 40-man for Buchanan, my order of call-ups, mainly just to let Abel progress a little more, would be Buchanan, Max Castillo, and then Mick Abel.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if he's pitching well, I mean, I guess he didn't even make it up to AAA yet. I think he's still down in Clearwater right now. So,
Yeah, he
um,
stayed down there for some
mhm,
stretching. They called it stretch out.
mm,
Stretching him out to make sure that
yeah,
he's at the innings that they want. Although I think I saw something that he's gonna start soon. Make a bill
that's good to hear.
first start of season. Saw a tweet somewhere. It's not in this one because they're saying how he's missing the start of the season. There's a tweet somewhere. Um,
He played in the Futures game last year.
he did. That was a good showing from him
Mm-hmm.
in that game.
Yeah. So,
Anyway, I thought I was
yeah,
seeing it this week, but I'm not going to take the time to look for it here. I should have looked
yeah.
for it ahead of time. That's my bad.
But
But yeah, he had a
yeah.
strong showing last year, so as long as he can keep that progressing in the right
Mm-hmm.
direction. He pitched
Yeah.
really well at AAA once he got up there. He actually had a lower ERA in AAA than
Mm-hmm.
AA, but granted he only made one start, so
Yeah.
there's
I, I
that.
I believe in him. I think his ceiling could be a number two, I think,
Mm-hmm.
be a number three pitcher at least. It's kind of like, I think he's what he's expected to be.
I definitely think
As
he's
he
gonna
progresses,
be,
but
yeah, as long as he makes it up here, can get a little control. Now, optimistically, with a first round pick, um, you hope that he has the capability of finding that control and then essentially turning into an ace level
mhm,
pitcher. But I more so look at the first round of the draft as I want to draft the players that are definitely going to make the major leagues
mhm,
and be a solid piece. You don't need to be. You look for superstars in the first 5 picks. And then if you find a superstar after that point, you just got, I don't want to say you got lucky, but you just drafted the right guy that had the right mentality to prove to everyone else that he should have been a top 5 pick, pretty much.
mhm. Yeah,
Um, and so I think with Aiden Miller, they found that because Aiden Miller should have been a top 10 pick. Now that's a different topic for another time, but like that's just an example of what I was trying to get at. But
mhm. Well,
yeah,
let's see if Abel has that mentality. I mean, I like the kid. I'm excited.
yeah, I have all the hopes in the world for him. But
Mhm.
yeah, I'm looking at the 2020 draft, and it was an interesting time.
Yeah.
Torkelson has not turned into what they thought he was going to be. He's been a solid power hitter, but
Mhm.
and Heston Kierstad, I could have sworn he was going to crack the opening day roster this year, but he didn't. And now, do you see the Orioles AAA team?
Yeah. They're insane right now.
I know. So, but yeah, I'm looking at the other players, and I'm like, I think Max Meyer made it finally to um the majors with the Marlins, but then I think everything blew up in his face and he went back down. I'm not sure. Asa Lacy disappeared. Austin Martin hasn't really done much. Emerson Hancock hasn't been bad. Nick Gonzalez has just been Zach Veen hasn't really done much. Reed Detmers, like Garrett Crochet, he made the majors really quickly, but he hasn't really done a terrible amount. Just like
Mhm.
all these guys, you're looking, and the most impactful person, not named Pete Crow Armstrong, from this draft has been Bobby Miller, and of course, it's the Dodgers guy.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So
You see Nick Bitsko there, number 24.
yeah,
He's from Doylestown.
I see that Central Bucks.
Yeah, he
Forgot
went to
about
CB
him.
East.
Yeah, my brother just had a volleyball game against CB East.
Nice.
Wasn't against Nick Bisco, but let's see. Where is he at? Oh, he is now with. Why is it showing me the? Oh, okay. Did he make the majors yet?
I think you had Tommy John last year.
Oh yeah, because he didn't pitch last year at all.
Mm.
He didn't do very well in his 2022 season.
Mm-mm.
So there's that. Great reputation for our area. I'm just kidding.
Oh,
So
Bryce Elder was a 5th round pick that year.
wait, that year? Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that insane? I did not
Yep.
even know that.
Yeah, neither did
Holy
I.
cow.
I didn't realize it was that year. I knew he
Oh,
was
guess he was the Braves' 4th round pick.
Strider.
Yeah.
My word.
I
I
hate
knew
doing that. Like, oh, you should draft it, but it's like you can't do that really,
no.
and people get mad when you do that. But like,
Well, so what
it's
you have
hard
to
not
look
to
at with
sometimes.
what you have to look at with that though. So you said that was the 4th round.
That was a 4th round, which is
So
crazy to me.
Carson Ragsdale. Oh, I remember seeing him get picked, and I was kind of happy we got him. So anyway, going for Strider. Yeah, so they signed him. Oh, actually under slot value.
Wild.
Yeah, I thought he
Honestly,
was.
yeah,
I thought he was. I didn't. I forgot he was out of college.
yeah. The
Never
MLB
mind.
draft is so weird. Like,
Yeah. Well, I thought what was gonna happen is like normally what'll happen is you draft your players that you really really want in some of the first few rounds, and the guys that are committed to like guys that have potential to be top 15 picks
mm-hmm,
but are committed to colleges out of high school normally don't sign with teams and they go to college so that
mm-hmm,
they can up their draft stock. Um, and so some of those players don't get drafted until like the 6th or 7th round because people know that they're not going to be able to sign them probably.
mm-hmm,
And so some teams will set up drafts so that they pick certain guys where they're not spending as much and they're spending under slot value early on in the draft, but they're still getting good players, but you're still going under slot value so that in the 6th or 7th round, some of these guys that no one thought would have a chance at signing because they were going to be first round picks at some point, you end up drafting and then you sign them way over slot value to like first round value money still. And so I was wondering if that's what happened with Strider, but no, he was just out of college, and I guess he was underrated. So yeah,
Well, Mick Abel gonna, gonna
he'll be
hopefully
fine.
make an impact this year.
Yes. Hey, and if yeah, leave it at that. Hey, I have high
I wish
hopes.
I didn't see that. That's crazy.
Yeah, I wish we would have just stopped. I didn't realize that was the draft they were in. I thought they had been in the
I had
system for longer than that.
It is. I mean, it is like it is. Yeah, he
Yeah.
came up so quick too. Only
Yeah. Well, he was a
2 years.
college pitcher, so
Yeah.
in all honesty, he should have come up sooner then.
Yeah.
Nola only took
But.
a year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Get on Noah's level, Strider.
yeah, come on, Strider. Give him a
Strider.
curveball. Dude, the one game I was at, people tried to go Spencer, and I'm like, nope, nope, please
No,
don't
they're
do that.
not doing it right. Yeah,
Don't
they're not
don't do
doing it
that.
right.
Don't do that. That's not it. That is just not it. Uh,
Oh,
but
that's funny.
yeah. So that'll wrap up the episode today there. With some talk on the 2020 draft and who we may or may not have missed out on by taking Mick but or Abel.
He's
Well,
gonna have a hot take. Abel's gonna have a better career than Strider when it's all said and done.
he is much younger, so
Hmm.
that is possible.
Do I believe that in my heart? No.
Yes.
But but we're optimistic.
Yes, sir. But
But
yeah, so that wraps up today's episode. We got an Instagram, we got a Twitter, We got you could be watching this on YouTube, but if you're not and you're listening on Spotify, we have a YouTube, and if you're watching this on YouTube, we have a Spotify. Um, so check all that stuff out. I not very good with the whole Twitter world, but I've been trying. It might be entertaining, so you can check that out and laugh at my subpar twittering. Um, but uh, yeah, check that out. I'll be posting. I have partial season tickets, so whatever game I go to, I'll do a instant recap of the games as I'm leaving the parking lot, as normally there's a bunch of traffic, so I'll have time to do that. So keep an eye out for those on YouTube and Instagram. But yeah, as always, comment down below the YouTube video. There's a question posted with the Spotify if you know how to answer that. And if all else fails, there's the Google form that you can always fill out. We want your participation. We want your questions. So feel free to leave them down below. But that'll wrap it up today. And as always, go Phils.
Go Phils.